All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Cole Murphy. Today, for my Real Utopia, I'm going to be presenting Kiss the Ground. So we'll kind of be talking about this organization and some things I encountered while looking into it with my inquiry. Um, One of the kind of major concepts in Kiss the Ground is kind of foundational to the rest of what we're going to be covering is kind of captured in this image right here. So on our left-hand side of the screen, we're seeing some kind of typical agricultural setup practice, a lot in the US, kind of the Great Plains area, but is kind of set as the standard for a lot of industrial agriculture in the world. We've got dry land that is being tilled up. You'll notice kind of to the left of the screen, we're looking at a dust cloud rolling in. We've got a couple pieces of machinery, a plane that is doing some spray cropping, some flybys with chemical pesticides. We have our large tilling machine that is carving up these rows, and there's not too much structure to the soil. We see this big crevasse. To our right, however, we're seeing a pretty lush scene where the soil is not tilled up, but just the top layer is taken and cleared for different crops to grow. There is an orchard to our right. Kind of to the right in the sky, we're seeing the rain cycle is alive and well. Off to the distance, you can see a herd of cattle, a small pool. So this is kind of talking about something called regenerative agriculture, and this image is kind of meant to be evocative and depict the really stark difference between these practices. You can see that there's a fence separating these two, and it really can be, maybe not to this kind of dramatic difference, but it really can be astonishing the difference between a field that is managed in kind of the common industrial way, heavy with chemicals, not very integrated with biological processes, versus when we are practicing regenerative agriculture. So Kiss the Ground, we want to talk about what it is because regenerative agriculture is huge to it, but what is the organization, right? So this is a 501c3 established in 2013, Venice Beach, California, and it is really grounded in like social, ecological activism, really highlighting regenerative agriculture. And this organization offers courses, has a documentary, a couple films it has put together, a lot of videos. There's an annual journal they put out, and there are more ways to learn about and join the regenerative agriculture movement. So let's learn a little bit about their team. Who is Kiss the Ground? This is a staff of 28 folks with a board of 13 and 77 partners. They call advisors. So just kind of in the folks that are like formally involved, we're looking at over 100 people. There are a global community of students and supporting members, as well as kind of grassroots advocates who take their Certified Soil Advocates course. Then there are some of the boots on the ground, the farmers in their farmland program. So here is kind of the journal that they put out every year, Regenerate, and they put out a couple of these, and really kind of high-end production value, really good-looking stuff. So the way that I first connected with Kiss the Ground kind of seemed the most intuitive way to go was to just watch their eco-activism film, which is called Kiss the Ground. And so I watched this film as kind of my point of entry after briefly browsing the website, and I had some questions. So how big is the Kiss the Ground community? What is the film's reception and impact? And what do these like courses, including the soil courses, actually offer to students? So we're going to start by kind of talking about community. How big is the Kiss the Ground community? So I got the best kind of measure of this by looking at social media. On Twitter, we're looking at about 14K followers, really prolific with the tweets. On Facebook, close to 83,000 followers. Instagram, more than doubling that, 172,000 followers. Again, really prolific with the posts here. And on YouTube, a little bit over 31,000 followers with an impressive 160 videos, kind of dating back to 9 years. And so the online community is included in kind of all of these followers. It was difficult to find other groups. There are other, Kiss the Ground kind of like local groups. So obviously the one that we're looking at is in California, but there are a couple other like kind of more centralized, localized communities. Let's talk about the Kiss the Ground film next. So this film is narrated by Woody Harrelson. It was $1 to rent on Vimeo, so I would recommend seeing it. So what was the film's reception and impact? So this film has been seen by well over 10 million people. For a while, they had a live counter of how many people had seen it on their website. It seems like that was down when I was looking, but the count as of last year was over 10 million. So really kind of distributed this film out. It's available on Netflix, Vimeo, renting for $1. It was well worth it. And you can also do it with local screenings. This film draws attention to critical issues with a positive spin. Climate change and the need for carbon sequestration, looking at biosequestration, building up the soil, growing plants, things like that to sequester, to kind of capture carbon. And we have a really high production value and a wide pool of experts. It's kind of a star-studded film. There's a lot of kind of high-profile names, you could say, in this film. So looking at kind of the positive impact, one of the things that the Kiss the Ground crew is celebrating right now is that they got a first ever congressional hearing that really addressed regenerative agriculture in a significant way. You can see here just kind of, I've stopped the video to quote, Mr. Finian Makepeace did an extraordinary job, an extraordinary message about the urgency, the need for us to kiss the ground. So Mr. Finian Makepeace, obviously one of the folks that's really well involved, kind of a longtime staff member with Kiss the Ground. And this is kind of pointing to what they're hoping to accomplish with their activism and with the film they put together and all the contents is to actually get policymakers talking about this stuff, seriously considering it. So we're looking at a chair of a agricultural committee in the in the U.S. Congress, and this is pretty significant office to be discussing this issue, and the fact that Kiss the Ground was able to kind of promote this issue and promote this solution, rather, I should say, to the point where it is actually, brought onto the floor is a really significant positive impact. We do also want to look at things through a critical lens. So there's a couple articles, but I wanted to highlight here Farmer Rishi, who was a former Kiss the Ground educator and wanted to kind of highlight that the Kiss the Ground film, while it might cover really great content, is not as representative as one would hope. In a 84-minute film, Farmer Rishi talks about, there is really only 5 minutes of talking time from people of color, and a big part of this is concerning because the idea of regenerative agriculture, yes, we might have a new word to call what has been practiced for hundreds and thousands of years, which is kind of living in natural cycles with nature. And Farmer Rishi's kind of pointing out that we're giving kind of all this legitimate and legitimacy and name to something that's existed for a long time. So sure, yes, we're very excited about regenerative agriculture, but let's not forget that these working with nature, these really promoting biodiversity, all of these practices are not new, and it might be more worthwhile for us to put energy not into the new bona fide, scientifically validated version, but instead to kind of just look at our source knowledge that is still contained in indigenous communities around the world. So we want to provide that critical lens to the film as well, because the film does appeal to a kind of a wide audience, but that audience isn't everyone. There is reason to kind of consider other perspectives as well here. So in the light of kind of, we've explored the community, we've explored the kind of the film, which is kind of the flagship, what they're really wanting to promote. We also should take a second to talk about the courses offered by Kiss the Ground. So what does this organization offer in terms of courses? As I was looking through, I kind of found two main categories here. This was edu-activism and agriculture. So in the edu-activism, we're looking at media program, stewardship program, policy, and so forth. And in the agricultural sphere, we're looking at a reference material bank, the farmland program, and then guides to cover crops and biodynamic farming. Talking about value and impact, there were no real reports on the impact, so I didn't have much to work from there. No studies done specifically on this organization, and I didn't have any luck getting in contact with folks. They just didn't get the chance to get back to me. So the content in the agricultural sphere kind of this expands on what is covered in the documentary. There's good information and continuing the pathway and how folks can get involved. The farmland content seems to talk about, standard fare agricultural content, which is going to include geographical zones and interventions appropriate to context. And I would say my overall recommendation is that, sure, browse these courses, but probably go ahead and take a bona fide course that offers a certificate, and then kind of go grow, teach, and advocate this mission. The Kiss the Ground organization website does provide a list of recommended certificates to go ahead and follow that aren't ones that they offer, but that their partners offer. So let's talk about joining the movement and kind of our takeaways here. My main takeaways is that there's really a kind of prolific online presence here that is kind of rare in person. So, Kiss the Ground is really active on 5 social media platforms with an impressive following, but it was kind of hard to find Kiss the Ground projects in the US or a network of affiliated gardens or projects. That was kind of something I was hoping to see. Second takeaway is that the engagement paths and solid activism is definitely there. So there's many ways to get engaged online with these courses for the way that kind of fits how you want to get involved. And the activism of Kiss the Ground has definitely drawn important attention from high offices. So it feels like there's real policy hope to see some change happen. And the third takeaway is that, Kiss the Ground with its film and its general message is kind of legitimizing long existing practices. So it's promoting regenerative agriculture to build topsoil. But it is effectively, the criticism is that it's kind of just a rebranding of indigenous land management practices and kind of retelling the tale via scientists and celebrities, which ultimately kind of makes this good for some audiences, but perhaps alienating to others. Thank you very much for your time. These are some sources I recommend you check out.